day-long conference scheduled on applications in AI at the end of March. Here in the DC area at George Washington, there's a conference on statistics in the age of AI coming up. That registration just opened for that, and so you'll find that easily, or we can put something in the chat box. I'm very glad to see on our screen today our ASA President, Bonnie Gustafsadar, who is initiating a series of public lectures related to important policy issues that highlight statistical innovation and leadership. So there'll be more information coming on that. So those are some coming attractions, but some current attractions now playing. We have a new journal. Our newest journal is called Data Science and Science. Just got started with ASA very recently. I say it's not for long because we have some other things in the works, but do check out the Data Science and Science website and contact the editor, David Madison at Cornell, if you'd like to be involved in some way. Also, ASA is very active in the accreditation space with the engineering accreditors ABET. So you can see the things that they accredit there. I highlighted data science. CSAB is an organization that handles that accreditation, and ASA is involved in that, along with ACM and IEEE CS. I want to highlight for you also the ASA statement on the role of statistics in data science and artificial intelligence. There's the link for that, but again, we'll put that in the chat box. And then finally, we have a committee on data science and artificial intelligence, and we have a committee on professional ethics, and they are putting their heads together to form an ethics and AI work group, and you'll be hearing more about that. So welcome again to this webinar. And thank you, John, for an opportunity to give this update.
Thank you. There's definitely a lot of great way of being engaged. So the purpose of this webinar is to make a strong case that we need more statisticians to start taking actions and to jump in and do more with AI. And then it's great to see ASA already have so much activity already on this front. So I'm going to share my screen, and to my fellow panelists, please, when we get to your slide, please just tell me that to advance to the next slide. Sorry. So my introduction. So I want to first open the floor by saying that often we'll talk about AI and statistics. We sometimes are talking about two things. One is statistics, the other are statisticians. And here we are concerned about statistics in AI, but we're individuals. We can only make contribution as an individual to ensure that statistics will remain in the core of AI. So here is a very simple cartoon of an AI system where you can see that if we think of AI as a black box, and inside you have hardware and software, and then no one gonna debate with us whether statistics should be in the core. So inside every AI system, there are statistical models, data processing tools, and algorithms that ensure the right kind of information should be extracted from there. And however, AI is like a cell; they cannot live without the outside infrastructure. So here I use color to illustrate that the yellow one are where mostly statisticians know how to implement, where the blue ones are mostly engineering skills that need to happen in order for AI to become a system. So here, the way I see it, AI definitely needs statistics actually in AI. However, what happens is that the computer science engineers who need to implement AI system, they can quickly pick up the yellow one from textbook, from their courses, in a mature-ish way or in professional way. They can continue to learn to implement the yellow one. So it is up to us to join and then to learn a little bit of blue one so that we can become important contributors in this AI system. So the way I see it, that there are really multiple ways that the statistics can be implemented in AI system, and then we need to consider all these things to make sure it works. So therefore, it could either be more of us join this and take up some of the CS tasks to become valuable contributors, or we can also contribute to make our research readily usable, so that more and more AI researchers can use really good statistical research. So why it's so timely to have this? I just want to go through a few funding opportunities that statisticians can consider. The first one is a National Artificial Intelligence Research Resource. They're running a pilot. And in this pilot, there are 3 things. One is for all of nearly 200 participants a day, you can all fill out the survey on use cases, in particular to say why it is important to have such resources available to statisticians so that we can remain relevant and start contributing. The second one is about computing. They already have an initial small part of computational resources. Even you don't have a high performance cluster at your own research environment, you should consider apply to this and start get your hands dirty. The third one are a bunch of resources, including data sets, teaching materials. I think there was some questions before the webinar asking for teaching materials. They're already available here. A small part, I think it will grow. But this is only a small pilot. It's a part of a bigger conversation that's happening at a nationwide, if not globally. And here is the White House National Artificial Intelligence Resource Task Force. Their final report was released earlier last year, and this pilot was in direct response to this final report. It's more than 100 pages, and we should read it, because it's unfortunate that statistics was now mentioned a lot in this report, and then we can change that reality. It's not too late. It's never too late, as long as we start taking actions. And in addition, that in the survey here is some question. You can see that they're really looking for us to give them compassion, to give them convincing use cases where statistics is part of this ecosystem, and we can contribute and we can benefit from such resources. We need these resources to be available to our community. Another one is recently that will also due very soon, February 18th, and OpenAI is inviting everybody to join their effort of, for example, they say, I'm a machine learning researcher who hasn't worked on alignment. I don't know what alignment is, but I'm intrigued. And they say that definitely, they especially excited about supporting excellent machine learning research who haven't worked on alignment before. You can even say, I have technical ideas, but I'm not sure, right? They say, please apply. So the AI system, the AI community is eager to work with anyone who has smart idea to contribute. So please feel welcome to join. So therefore, I'm just gonna throw a few questions that some of my panelists will already answer, and we can also take more questions at the end, is that there's a door into AI for statistics or statisticians. And it is broad open, but sometimes it feels it's narrowing down, like we feel become more and more left behind. So can we change that reality? Do we want to drive AI research? And how much do we want to get involved? And should we be concerned about our level of participation right now? If so, how can we change that? And what should we do as individuals and as a community? With that, I'm gonna move to our next panelist, Hongtu.
Okay, it's my turn. Okay, and actually, I first want to give a economical layout for AI, and I think in this wave of the AI in last decade, it started with some small ideas, but it's very unique ideas from the university, and actually the private sectors took this kind of ideas and invested thousands of $billions into these ideas and basically apply to different applications. They used some very important and kinds of applications to demonstrate the power of the AIs. And nowadays, the funding agency pick up this kind of the ideas and basically try to invested in this. And actually, they started these days. You see that almost AI everywhere, and basically started from some biomedical science, and also nowadays it goes to the B2B and the B2G, the business to government, and the B2C, business to customers. And actually, these days, everybody talking about large language models and all the ChatGPT, and this is very important these days. Okay, and go to next. And I think one thing I have been worried a lot in the last several years is in particular related to National Artificial Intelligence Research Institute. And you see that AI has become a pivotal element in the national developmental agendas. Is promoting the governments globally to invest to the AI research, innovation, and implementation to stimulate all kinds of the applications. And actually, National Science Foundation has set up 25 national AI research institutes, and in the last 2 rounds, and actually 2 cycles, basically invested $360 million to these 25 institutes. And actually, they cover the foundation, theoretical part, and also cover application part. That's very important. But in contrast, how many national mathematical institutes we have? Only 6. Only 0.5 related statistics. Go to next. And another very important thing is Tim just mentioned about the NAIRR, this program. Why this program is so important for the many faculties in the computer science, in particular working on machine learning. And basically, this is a program can now then basically provide the resources to all the faculty members in these departments and also programs. And basically, you see that there's one of the weaknesses and everybody facing as a university faculty researchers, because we don't have, supercomputer power, not tons of the computing resources. But now this kind of program can provide these kind of resources and speed up these kinds of research and activities. This is very important, but it's bad for us in certain degree, but it's also good. That's my comments. Yeah.
So our next panelist, Hao will talk about from his view, what a paradigm shift we should have as a community.
Okay, so sure. So let's start to think about to reflect ourselves as our professional as statisticians. I see these years our ASA have been formed like 185 years, and probably for the past kind of 160 years after ASA was formed, and our statisticians truly leading the area for the data science and kind of the analyze the data. Our statisticians is kind of our field is evolved as a different new data type come out. For example, the time to event data come out in the 1950s, and we come out like the Kaplan-Meier curves and many of the Cox models. We leading these areas. In the 1980s, longitudinal data come out. We generalized estimating equations, and later on the high dimensional data, genetic data come out. We come out like a FDR and many of the new methodologies. For the past probably kind of the 20 years, the different data type is growing so fast. The image data, natural language, and self-driven car. And so how can we make our statisticians continue to leading this new data type analytics? How can we have the mindset to adopt on this change of the paradigm? So I just shared kind of some of my thoughts in the next couple of slides. So the first part, many people may be familiar with these books and kind of the Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. This is one of my favorite books. In this book, they talk about in the human history, there are 3 revolutions. The first revolution is the cognitive revolution, but the second one is agricultural revolution. Certainly, the third one is the scientific revolution. But the second one is very profound, is the agricultural revolution. They talk about, maybe just build on these slides, they talk about a moment for the human beings from hunting to the farming. It's kind of if we move a little bit and we just the show up on from hunting to the farmings. Then yeah. So I feel like this is very similar as what we are doing right now these days on the research. Traditionally, as our statisticians, sometimes we just facing our computers and we already have some data and we work by ourselves. Kind of it's very similar as our ancestors and a small group, a couple of persons, and do the huntings. But after do the huntings and the hunting is not enough, and start the farmings. The key things from the hunting the farming is that they need to start with a large scale and collaborations. And this large scale collaboration have many of the implications in the human history, and actually they also have a lot of implications for current days, very similar for current days on our data science to doing the research. So maybe we can move to the next slide. So in this area, they already have many of the kind of thought leaders in this area, the statistical at the crossroad, most recently, and David ASA have the papers on the data science and the singularities. One of the key things and how can we continue to speed up our iterations, make our broad impact. I just want to share some of the perspectives and we from our committees, and we have discussed for the early this year in the UAE at the conference, and Tian and Hongtu was organized this. So the first part is the data sharing. How can we continue to share our data? I know there's some privacy protected data. How can we continue to think about in the directions to make this more reproducible, this research? And later on, you are going to hear some of the initiatives from kind of Wenyi and kind of from others on some of the initiative this group will going to promote on the data sharing. The data sharing certainly we want to protect on the patient privacy, but there's so many different ways we can share in the data. The second piece is reproducible on the code. During the past, and we developed some tools, and we need to continue to learn from the data kind of in general, computer scientists, data science in this field. How can we make our solutions more reproducible? Others can quickly to build their improvement on top of your solution. The third one is also very important. How can we get the focus the problem? I saw in the these three things is also emphasized by the David ASA on their kind of friction on their data science and the singularity. They mentioned the data science challenge. Kind of this is so much important to evolve on the field of data science. There are some like immediate and Hongtu mentioned the immediate, and there's many of the kind of the computation already exist. But in our field, for example, in the medical field, how can we also think about along the same line and the same directions? We continue to push this. Combine these three things, we truly believe they can speed up on the iterations and build on the solution. In the code side, how can we also learn from other disciplines to make ourselves like at the beginning, as Tian mentioned, how can we make ourselves become a kind of the better data scientist? And in this slide, we talk about actually there are three levels. If we should not only consider ourselves, can only analyze the data. So during the past, I feel like some of the statisticians really got spoiled, and we only consider ourselves is analyze the data. We don't care about the data collections. At the next step, we need to push ourselves as a full stack data scientist. The full stack data scientist is starting from the data collections, the study design, and he'll kind of really get the result, convince the big problem owners, convince the scientists. So this is the kind of the need to develop additional skill set. In terms of the computation, we need to think about is how can we better understand the codings and the design patterns, better understand the kind of the data structures. That all these skill sets are really important to make ourselves become a full stack data scientist. But after that, we should not stop thinking. This is not like our statisticians compete with the computer scientists. We want ourselves become a full scientist. I think during the meetings, kind of Susan Murphy and many people raise out this problem. It is so important. We need to consider ourselves as a full scientist, and we should not only recognize publish the paper in the top 4 journals is so important for our discipline. We also need to recognize and kind of for the people who can really publish papers, even the science in natures, and to truly push the boundaries in the kind of in the scientific boundary. And we not only should present our work in the statistical community, kind of in the computer science community, we also need to think about push the boundaries to present our work, even in the medical communities. Go to American Diabetes Associations, Heart Association, kind of the ASCOs, kind of the cancer community. Let the people be more aware of our contributions as a full scientist. This is so important. But among all of these things, the foundations, what we need to do, maybe the next slide, I'm thinking it's so important, just be curious. I think during the meetings of kind of UAE meetings, Tianxi and Xihong, and a lot of people mentioned this, curiosity is so important. So right now, there's so many kind of tools can satisfy your curiosity. For me, for example, over the weekend, almost every weekend, I spend 2 or 3 hours just chat with the ChatGPT and to learn the different fields, the different areas, make ourselves be more curious, then we can have a bigger impact for our field. Think about the social impact, be more curious. So that's my message. And so maybe you have more for the Wenyi's talk or the Wenyi's.
Yeah. Next, we have Wei Jie.
Yeah. Can I share my own screen?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not enabled.
Okay, just 1 second. I don't know how to stop share. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah. Thank the previous speakers for the wonderful summary. And I'm a statistician by PhD training, with a heart for statistics, always 100%. But meanwhile, most of my research is at the intersection of statistics and machine learning. I regularly attend machine learning conferences, try to find statistical problems in emerging AI problems. So, and I also have I have a secondary deployment at the Penn CS department. So I will try to tell about what we statisticians can do to make ourselves more competitive in AI. I will take a micro perspective, be very detailed. So first of all, there's a big sense of training change because of AI in the last 2 years. But this is not only happening in statistics, it's happening everywhere. And for me, personally, I have huge confidence in statistics. Statistics will definitely play a big role in AI and beyond. So that's a basis. That's a basis for the statisticians to make a difference in AI. So now let me try to focus on 3 elements, very specific elements that I believe we can do to improve our comparative in AI research. So first is about tenure. Okay, so what are the most valuable resources in our community? I believe it's actually our junior professors. They just graduated from PhD, and they are energetic, elastic, and can be potentially adapted to any cutting-edge research. Okay, but however, they have some pressure. They have pressure of tenure, right? They want to do their research to pass the tenure after 6 years, for example. So it would be great if we design the tenure process, the tenure criteria, such that will encourage them to do AI research or related. Okay. However, the current tenure evaluation criterion, in my view, in many stat departments, does not adapt to the quickly evolving AI research. Okay. So in AI, the emphasis is more on the impact, whether you solve a big problems, okay? Whether you let people outside of statistics know what you are doing, okay? And often evidenced by lots of citations. Okay? And in the old-fashioned tenure process, we maybe look at how many papers you publish in top stats journals. Okay? But this does not adapt to what's going on in AI. Okay, And second, perhaps maybe we can also make tenure easier for our junior professors. In computer science, there's something recently happening, interesting. And the tenure rate in computer science, especially in machine learning, becomes higher in recent years. So this is because lots of senior machine learning professors now quit academia for industry. They are leaving universities. So this in return actually creates lots of space and less pressure, tenure pressure for their junior professors. I interact a lot with them when I attend NeurIPS and ICML. It seems to me that when they pick their research problems, they don't have any pressure about tenure. Instead, they are mostly driven about what's going on, what is big nowadays. But from my interaction with our junior professors in statistics, they often say that they will first work hard for 6 years to publish enough journal papers. They say they promise me that they will do AI after 6 years. But after 6 years, many people's research style will be fixed. It becomes harder to adapt to a new field after many, many years. Okay. Now, second is about PhD students. Okay, so my proposal is that we can make our PhD program larger. Okay, larger. So AI is a collaboration thing, it's a labor-intensive thing. We need lots of people, lots of students working on a single project in AI. Okay? And I predict that in statistics, in the future, in every project, in every paper, the number of authors, the number of student authors will be ever increasing. So we should make our PhD program larger. Okay? And then also about qualified exams. Typically, in stats programs, we will first year students will take lots of courses and then to pass the qualified exam. This is not the case typically in computer science, in machine learning. In machine learning, they usually in their first year, they start to do rotation, start to do research in their first year. And should we keep our qualified exam in statistics PhD program? I'm not sure. I guess so. I think we still are we are very different from machine learning, computer science. We can still keep it, but maybe we can downplay it. We should encourage students to spend less time preparing qualified exam in their first year PhD. Instead, encourage them to spend more time reading about what's going on in data science and AI. Maybe can do research even also in first year. Okay. And the third, about job openings for who? Okay, and we always need to get new ideas from what's going on in AI. And currently, what many stats departments are doing is to hire lots of computer science and PhDs for our tenure track positions. This is, of course, great. But this also could signal to our potential PhD students that if they want to work at a top stats departments in the future as a professor, maybe they should not do a PhD in statistics at this moment. Okay, actually, this is what's happening. These statistics have been losing lots of admitted PhD students to computer science and EE. So it is very important for us to attract the best young minds to our field, to our community. Maybe, for example, we can encourage our own students to work on machine learning AI during their PhD, and then they will hire them back when they are on the job market. Okay? And indeed, actually, we have already many quite good young professors with PhD in statistics who are doing very well in machine learning and AI research. We can give them more visibility and recognition. And the last about publication value. Okay? So our field has several very prestigious journals. They, in some sense, defines our own field and also impact our tenure process and the promotion decisions. So to embrace AI, we of course can encourage ourselves to publish more in Nature, Science, and conferences such as NeurIPS and ICML. Okay, but however, these venues are owned by not by us. I publish regularly at NeurIPS and ICML. This year, I'm doing an experiment about peer review at ICML. I feel that they are owned by computer science, so sometimes it's not under our control. Okay, so instead, if our most prestigious journals could publish more these papers, and then we would own our venue, and many things could be under our control, and we could have a big voice. Okay, but this is not easy. This requires a new mindset. But from my own experience, I work on differential privacy and deep learning and other things. I often find that it is quite challenging to publish at these top journals on these topics. So in the short term, what we can do, for example, is to allow dual submission. This is the case for machine learning and many other fields. So this means that a preliminary paper published at ICML and NeurIPS with extended results, a journal version still can be published at JML. But this is perhaps is not the common case in statistics. Okay? This, of course, will benefit some of the people, but overall, I think a lot of dual submission will make our journal, stats journal, with more impact. And third, in the long run, we can even establish our own conferences, our conference proceedings. And since this is especially the case nowadays, AI research is evolves very fast. So for journal, the peer review takes a long time. If we have our own conference, we could also attract lots of exciting results published in our stats venue. And we hope that our most important results could be published by venues owned by ourselves, and people outside our community will also recognize the importance of our results. So that's our hope. Okay, so this is the three very specific aspects I think we could do to make ourselves more competitive in AI research. And I'm looking forward to your comments. Thank you.
So I think Weijie focus on the incentive aspect. And when people feel incentivized, what can they get started? So this is where we're gonna hear from Wenyi about some of the initial resources that this group of people we started meeting since January, trying to build for our community. And we welcome more ideas and more input. You can email any one of us with your ideas, and then nothing happens overnight, but we hope this could be the beginning of something.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tian, and thanks, Weijie, for the wonderful overview, like presenting your ideas. That was great. So as Tian and a few others mentioned, that we had a meeting at Abu Dhabi, UAE, talking about a workshop on statisticians for the future of AI. And the next slide. The attendees decided to form an initial Stats Up AI Alliance. And then between, so that was back in January 8th. I guess I got home January 9th because of the time difference. So up till today, within less than a month, so we got this website running. So you can visit here's so it's basically statsupai.com with the support of the alliance, and then here's a list of the core teams that have contributed. So the goal of this website is to help organize activities that empower statisticians to participate more activities in AI research and leadership. And we currently come up with 4 main categories of information as resources. First is providing well-curated data sets for each of the domain field So that for statisticians who are not familiar with, to be easily jump into that particular domain and then start playing with the data and then develop methods, and review articles that go in hand in hand in synergy with the essential data sets, which then provides the much needed kind of background study of that particular domain field to further ensure there's a direct like vertical improvement in any new methodology that's been developed. Ready to use pipeline, again, we found in a group that there's so many variety of pipelines that are being developed, and statisticians usually encounter the issue of what to use and which one is the best, and then so we aim to kind of resolve that bottleneck issue by establishing ready-to-use pipelines for the domain field. And the last but not the least is the community news, where which is dedicated to proactively gather and then disseminate timely and crucial information related to funding opportunities and award opportunities and specialized trainings for interested statisticians. So next slide. Yeah, so and this is one particular example. What's already there on the current website is a set of data set among a few is an example of a set of bulk RNA sequencing as well as single cell RNA sequencing data that are specially designed to facilitate the truly benchmarking evaluation of like 10 at least like 20 methods that we know that have been developed over the past 5 years. And on the right is another example of as I mentioned, the community news. We have this advertisement of today's meeting, and also this that as you probably can see, it's kind of small. Conducting research with all of us. That's another we thought important set of YouTube videos that are quite useful for people who are interested in looking at human genetics related data sets. Next slide, and just wanted to go back to, so this is again less than 1 month that we a few interested statisticians and leaders have put in our effort to put together this initial resource, and we welcome you to join us. And then and this is the beginning of our initiative, the January workshop. If you can feel free to take a copy of this, and then so you can watch the YouTube videos. All right, thank you.
And also, we are also interested in, there's some discussion about leadership training and possibly institutes and some idea bubbling. So it is exciting that I think we want to know two things that we collectively recognize after the workshop, is that we have this shared love of statistics, and a lot of the issues and matter of concern is about we feel regretful that statisticians are now well engaged with AI, so we want to change our reality, and then there's lot of love going around. So here are some few questions that we received before the webinar. As you can see that what do we see as a key step for ensuring statistician and more than a thought in an AI-driven world. How can AI methodology, like how can we, are we foundational in AI? I think the answer is yes. We want to have more webinars and a platform on the website to disseminate, update, and current challenges of AI. And then we want to be able to identify resources for the whole community on skill sets that is and the teaching materials that we can use to teach our students. And we also, as Wen Yi said, those pipelines are in direct answer to what are some of the use cases. When we teach our students, and especially our doctor students or young colleagues in AI skills, it's very important for them to have a problem to work on directly. Otherwise, you learn about how to classify cats and dogs. 4 months later, you forgot about how to do it already. So it's very important to jump in and start working on real scientific problem become a full stack data scientist or a full scientist, as how that said. So I think with that, we will be able to introduce a lot of the important concept in statistics into AI, such as uncertainty. So I think I want to open, so I highlighted one question at the end is, if we're here to join AI and we want to sell ourselves to collaborators and then teams that welcome our participation, how can we do that? What is a unique edge for statistician during the AI revolution? So I'm gonna open this up to my fellow panelists to comment, or you can add comment for everything, for anything else. Anyone who want to jump in?
So if nobody want to jump in, probably I can jump in for here. So I'm thinking as our statistician, we can have a lot of things we can offer as a kind of in the AI machine learning stage. So one thing that if I reflect on this is I often I feel like the current AI machine learning is in the moment from technology to the science. So to the technology, what I mean by the technology, that the human beings to know how to use the levers probably 5,000 years ago until most recent 500 years, they know the level principles. They can design the better tool. They can design the better tools and kind of to helping the industry helping the industry revolution. Previously, and at the beginning of the stage of the AI machine learning, there were so many of the ad hoc approach to handle this. And for example, the data augmentation is just in the image, just rotate the data. But right now, there's become more and more mature from this traditional estimation problems. There are a lot of opportunities that we can more offers and in the moment from technology to science. So these days there are more mathematical tools and statistical tools can better helping on this. For example, I just mentioned this the data augmentation doing the rotations, but the rotation is the type of the kind of symmetric is the type of the group, and these days people better leverage the group informations and do kind of build this in the SE3 and many other kind of this the Lie group and the Lie theory better improve the deep learnings and make the technology to a science. And right now, after that, we see a lot of things is moving forward and the breakthrough in this symmetric learnings on the deep learning field. Similarly, as the inference, similar as the kind of there are more tools helping us on the inference on the deep learning on the generative AI these days. So I'm kind of in terms of the beyond the simple estimation, and we can better refine and make the model is more efficient. There are a lot of rooms that we can improve, and also very importantly, beyond this kind of improve, kind of incrementally improved. And again, to come back, we need to continue to think about better define ourselves is broadly impact on the scientific field. And I'm thinking this is also very important. It's not like statisticians compete with the computer scientists. It's more like how can we more direct impact on the big scientific problems.
Yeah, and actually, I think I second what I said. Actually, I have 3 years, private sector experience. I work in the AI labs. And actually, when I first took the positions, I don't know, how could statisticians can do something really in the AI areas. And actually, I after 3 years, when I look back, I find that the most important things is not learn a few kinds of new tools or like the deep learning or reinforced learning. The most important thing is you need to focus on a very important challenge applications. And you think about in practice, the most important thing is doing end-to-end research in last decades. When you work on a company, the most important thing you need to deliver a product to the people. That's the most important part. Okay, that means basically you have the important applications, and then you can think about the data set. Then think about how to clean up the data set, how to annotate the data set, and solve real problems. And then you think about how to basically use a different, statistical knowledge or knowledge, the new tools and learn from AI, quote. And basically, this is very important. The only things for me, the most important lesson I learned is my statistical skill is super important for AI kinds of the many applications they are doing. They're using statistics everywhere. And actually, I saw it basically computer scientists that are learning this kinds of like causal inference. Why? Because these days they want to basically make the kinds of the decisions and basically really can basically make an impact. Okay. And this is why this causal inference is so important in AI conferences in the last 5 to 6 years. And the people are doing a lot of causal reinforcement learning because of that, because they want to change the policy, really have an impact, and from practical perspective. And I think all the things to emphasize, the key point is these days, I think one thing we need to do to focus on, emphasize is we need to do kinds of end-to-end research. We need to develop product. We need to improve our engineering skills. I think for most of the people here can easily learn how to run deep learning, okay? But the most important things is beyond these kinds of technical skills, we need to focus on data, how to make the data better, in what sense, how to connect the data, okay? That's important. The design is also important. And for all these skills, we can easily to learn. I think the one thing that we didn't teach our students a lot is the engineering skills. We need to really emphasize that, because we need to produce a product instead of publishing the papers in analytical statistics. Most of these days, people in an AI field, they want the ordinary people, the government, all the funding agencies want to see a product. You show people the product, not a paper, okay? They want to basically ordinary benefit from all these products. That basically we can do all the same thing. When I worked in the tech, in the company, the private sectors, if we are looking at the team members we are working with, the people from all the field, in particular like OR, operation research, okay? They have never done these reinforcement learnings. We learned by doing projects, okay? That's the very important things for us. We can do all the things. Only things, whether you are willing to choose one specific applications and put your skill set inside and solve the problems and finally produce a product for ordinary people to use. That's the most important part. That's the reason we need to emphasize end-to-end research, not to go from paper to the paper, okay? That's not something we are looking for in the current AI eras. Okay, this is basically, that's not one thing I wanted to emphasize. We really need to improve our students' skills on the engineering skills, know how to basically go from the real data to the real applications. The whole pipelines, we need a student to learn how to do it. We need to change our kinds of PhD program. For this purpose, it doesn't take too long for students to learn. Maybe just at the most 1 year, basically, to develop these kinds of pipelines. Okay, and just do several projects, concrete projects. They know how to do it. It doesn't take a long. It's much easier. You learn some, difficult math. Okay, I think that's very important for our future and future of our field. Okay.
So
That's
if I
why I
may, I
emphasize.
just want to, because there's some question about people saying, how can they get started? And Hongtu just make a strong, very good example of, if we are working, if for academic statisticians, especially tenure academic statisticians, when Hongtu says we need to teach our student engineering skills, I think to play the devil advocate is that we say, they don't want to learn engineering skills from a statistician by training, right? But there are ways for them to pick it up. And when they pick up, we all benefit. So encourage them to go to hackathons. When they go to hackathons, they do the competition with computer science students. They contribute as statisticians. Statistics students read paper very quickly. They can understand the method quickly, and they can learn how to contribute. If they find themselves to be irrelevant at competition, that would be a wake-up call. So you won't lose anything. So just encourage them to go there. Encourage them to read papers in AI, even though some of them say, oh, I don't understand what a transformer is. Dig deeper, read about them. And when they read about them, ask them to explain them to you, and then you will learn and they will grow. So this is another And I'm so thrilled to see a comment on industry, academia collaboration. We look forward to have problems and challenges proposed by industry statisticians. It does not have to be your own data, because sometimes it's very hard to share. But I like how that have done a lot of that. Sometimes he just say, you know, here is some kind of question I have for this public available data. You know, I'm more than happy to write up like challenges for academic statistician to say. So the industry statisticians are already ready to help us do the problem framing, which is already like, you know, a big step towards real applications. So our alliance is more than happy to collect such ideas. So if you have ideas, send to Wenyi. Just put you on the spot. I think that's just a few things that we can all get started.
Yeah, I think these days I find that based on my personal experience, all my students, they work on industry. Basically, we find that statistical training is so very important for many problems, because we can devise some theories and also can think deeper and do all the proof. And we can deliver much better product compared with some other people from other background. I'm not saying this proof theory is not bad. It's basically if you find the right problems and basically you have deep understanding the theoretic aspect, and actually tech companies are looking for this kind of people, because they really make this product, you know, they have deep thought, and basically we can solve many Chinese problems they didn't realize. Okay, I think this kinds of experiences, I personally feel that I can solve a lot of problems, because when I work on some problems, I find that my colleague did is basically is wrong in a certain degree. I can do better than that because we have this statistical training and the skills to do it. I tell the people is all the problems you can do it if you think deeper and just jump inside and do it, and take advantage, try to learn from other people. These AI people have a lot of new tools, and actually you can learn from that, basically using as your tools and to solve the problems. I think those are the most important things. We basically learn good things from other people, and at the same times we try to solve real problems and also make the whole field push forward. I think that's important for us as a whole field. Then the people recognize, okay, this is basically statistician play much better roles in the AI era, and basically we can produce a product.
Yeah, I saw the comment from Meng in the I wanted to respond to that. So I think since I work on computational biology, so I know a lot of engineers and computer scientists who work on computational biology. The point is that statistics are extremely important. So as long as we're willing to do end-to-end, we can do better. So we will, in a few years, or even as soon as we do it, we are ahead, or we already caught up with them. So that's the point. I don't think it's not like in 4 years we're back to where they are now.
Right.
They're in the stage that they need to learn statistics.
Yeah,
but
right.
They have end-to-end product. So the result is that not so ideal end-to-end product are being used, whereas statistical methods are not being incorporated enough.
Yeah. So I was thinking kind of there in terms of the course and the people asked to take and all the skill set to grow. What I observed is the 4 type the computation skill is important for our industry the day-to-day use. So the first part is the low-level programming like C or C++. So if you don't understand the low-level programming, you will sooner or later get trouble in the high-level programming. For example, how the Python, the R do the resource management. So this kind of be the first thing. The second part is the kind of the data structure and algorithms. That is also very important to make the better algorithm more efficient. The third course is the mathematical optimization. That's so fundamentals because almost all the machine learning AI algorithms at the end of the day is optimization. That will not only helping us on the programming, on the understand the algorithm, that also helping as a statistician, helping us understand the theoretical part. For example, even for the lasso on the Oracle property proof, this construction is based on the KKT condition. A lot of people are very familiar with that. And also many of the second kind of the curvatures is equivalent to the variance. So this kind of also helping us on the theoretical piece. The last component is also the software engineering. One particular course is the so-called design patterns. The design pattern is how to kind of in the software engineering, how to design abstract out on the design pattern. Those 4 skills is truly the foundation. Beyond this, you can also how to use like a GitHub to collaborate with other people's, how to use like AWS. There are so many of these kind of tools you need to get yourself to be familiar with.
Yeah, I think besides you're doing projects, I think another thing I do these days, basically I encourage my students to go to the tech company to do interns. And then if you want to get into this kind of, the interns in tech company, you have to, improve your coding skills. And then my students feel the pressure basically of that. And then they can, I try to also, I have some connection to tech company. I send my good student to my collaborators, my friends, basically they can train my students because they do total different project and actually really helping me a lot because some of my students, they become much mature after interns and they can push the project much faster than before. And that's I was a personal benefit from doing that. I think it's not to put your students in summer in the department to do the research. Actually, these days, I told my students, if you want to find the intern in the tech company, just do it. Okay, really improve yourself, not for money, for yourself, skills.
I think we've reached our hour, and this has been a really exciting conversation. So I definitely want to thank our panelists and actually all the attendees who have been so participatory in chat. So wanted to let you know that we will make the recording available on the AmStat YouTube channel, and we can certainly share it with Stats Up AI as well. And so perhaps they'll add it to their website. And yeah, I look forward to continuing the discussion. So please reach out to Ron or me with your thoughts on how the AI can be supportive.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thank
thank
you,
you, thank
ASA,
you.
for the
Thank you.
support, and we look
Yeah.
forward in future partnership of contributing more to the community. Thank you so much, Donna and Ron and Bonnie and Christine.
Thank you.
And Steve.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.